start in a few moments. Bismillah. اللهم إنا نبغى إليك من حولنا وقوتنا منك بي حولك وقوتك يا ذا القوة المتين. استغفر الله العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا يا أرحم الراحمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته everyone. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless the remaining days of Sha'ban for us and to enable us to live the month of Ramadan by His blessings and His mercy, and to make us of those who will make the best out of it. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Ameen. We continue by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings in these lectures on the fiqh of fasting. The fiqh of fasting, the rulings about fasting, everything that is related to fasting, the understanding of fasting, not only the legal aspects, also the spiritual aspects of fasting. We already started the first lecture was about fiqh in general, and what is fiqh, the definition, the linguistic definition, and the Shari'i definition, and why we have many schools of fiqh, and what are the sources of fiqh or the Islamic law. And also we talked about which school I should follow, and we explained all that in a long lecture that is a very important and very foundational lecture, alhamdulillah. Then we started talking about fasting and the definition of fasting. So we continue and we make a quick review from there about the definition of fasting. And we said in the Shari'i definition, it's to refrain from all nullifiers, all the things that break your fast, and we will talk about them today, inshallah, in more details. So fasting is to refrain from all those nullifiers, or all of those things that nullify your salah, your fast, from the true dawn, al-Fajr al-Sadiq, until the sunset, with the intention to, of course, the intention to respond to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. And this is extremely important so that you will get the reward of fasting. From individuals who are permitted to fast. There are some individuals who are in certain cases are not eligible, let's say, to fast. They're not permitted to fast, right? Like women in some cases, they're not permitted to fast. They're not supposed to fast because Allah gave them dispensation. Allah gave them permittance or allowance, so they're not supposed to fast, but they have to make up the fast later. So that is mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we will talk about that. We'll talk about this definition, every piece separately and in details, inshallah. So we talked about refraining last time. We talked about refraining, and we said refraining means, or refraining has many types. Non-refraining, if someone does not refrain from the nullifiers, means he or she will break the fast. So this non-refraining is many types. It is either intentional non-refraining, someone intentionally breaks the fast, okay, or someone accidentally or by mistake breaks the fast, or someone forgetfully breaks the fast. So that's what we explained last time, and I'm going to summarize very quickly before we move on to the next part of the definition. So if someone intentionally breaks the fast, what should they do? We said that is a very major sin, a very, very major sin, that they need to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they have to make up that day, and they have also to make an expiation for that breaking of the fast. And we explained about the expiation in details. And how they, what does that mean? Intentionally breaking the fast by anything, any food or drink that people usually eat or drink, anything that people usually eat or drink, intentionally and without excuse and without coercion, like willingly, this person broke the fast. The second type is, and we explained a little bit more details last time uh, about this thing. Now, the second type is by mistake or by accident. Uh, Accident from yourself or accident from others. For example, this person, uh, he he thought it's Maghrib time and he ate, but it wasn't Maghrib time. So by mistake, he broke his fast in the wrong time. So all or someone, okay, this person has to make up the fast, but doesn't have to pay expiation or to do an expiation. Someone was forced by someone else to break the fast. That's considered also an accident from a third party, let's say, right? So that also requires making up. And of course, this person, when he does it by mistake, there is no sin whatsoever, okay? There is no sin whatsoever for this person, as our beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, and this is agreed upon, and from the mercy of Islam. رفع عن أمتي الخطأ والنسيان وما استكرهوا عليه. My ummah will not be brought to account for something that they did by mistake or forgetfulness or something that they have been forced to do. So this is clear, but because he did not fulfill the definition of fast, because he had something inside his body during the day, so he has to make up that day. Now, the third type is forgetfulness. Someone broke his fast uh, forgetfully, means when he broke the fast, he wasn't aware, he forgot. It ran away from his mind at that moment that he is fasting. So we said he should continue his fast. And by the way, all of the three categories, anyone who breaks his fast in any way is supposed to continue the fast and not and he's supposed to observe and respect the sacredness of the month. He's supposed to continue and not like just go out and eat, etc. Except for the excused people, they're excused. They can continue to they can continue to eat or drink or take their medicine, depends on their excuse. So someone eats by mistake. This type of person, as our beloved said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, let him continue his fast, and Allah has given him food and drink to eat. So it is like a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he gave him. So based on this hadith, okay, the vast majority of the scholars, including the Hanafi school, he does not have to make qada and does not to do anything. Just continue your fast as if you did not do anything. It's just a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like he gave you some water, some food to eat to strengthen you to continue the fast, or for a wisdom that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself knows, and you continue your fast. But here, by the way, and this is something I did not mention last time, it's preferable for this person to make up that day. It's preferable. Why it's preferable? It's preferable for that person who forgetfully breaks the fast. It's preferable for him to do what? To make up that day later. It's preferable for him to do that. Why it's preferable? Because in some schools, like in the Maliki school, he has to make it up. He has to make up that day in the Maliki school. And someone might say, how come someone ate or drank forgetfully. He forgot that he's fasting. How the Maliki scholars say he has to make up that day after Ramadan. And here I want to pause to explain to you this comparative fiqh issue, comparative jurisprudence issue, so that we taste the sweetness and of the understanding of the Shari'i rulings, and we taste the sweetness of learning and seeing how the scholars take the proofs or take the rulings from the proofs of the Quran and Sunnah. And you see that no scholar in Islam would reject a hadith or reject a verse, but it is about some people or some scholars did not receive a certain hadith or understood the hadith in a different way, and that's what we explained in our first lecture. So let's come to this issue, and just to give you an idea, by the way, as I mentioned also in the first lecture, that when you have more than one opinion, okay, and you can do the thing based on all opinions, and you can satisfy, let's say, you can satisfy all opinions or all the four reliable Muslim schools, that is always preferable. That is always preferable. And I quoted you some of the words of the Hanafi scholars and other scholars about this idea. Same thing here we say, as Hanafi scholars mentioned themselves. They said, if you eat or drink or do any of the nullifiers of fasting forgetfully, it is preferable, mustahab. It's preferable to make up that day after Ramadan. Now, number one, they all agree no sin. If you break your fast forgetfully, no sin. Just as if you do it accidentally or by mistake or by coercion of someone, there's no sin on that. They all agree on this. Now, someone might say, how the Maliki scholars they disagree with the hadith. They did not apply the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The hadith says in Sahih al-Bukhari very clearly. He said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, whoever eats or drink while he's forgetful, while forgetting that he's fasting, let him continue his fast, because Allah has given him food and drink. In another narration, that is a provision or rizq. That is rizq that Allah has brought him or brought to him. So the Maliki scholars here, they said, the Prophet ﷺ did not say that this person doesn't have to make up that day. All what the hadith says, that this person, let him continue his fast. Okay? And this is agreed upon. And he said Allah has given him food and drink. So it means there is no sin on him. So the hadith doesn't mention that he's not supposed to make up that day. And the rule or the originally, he's supposed to maintain the fast. In the Shari'i definition, he did not fulfill the definition of the fast because he had something in his body, inside his body. So technically, he did not fulfill the fast or the conditions of the fast. And this is why he has to make it up. This is why he has to make it up. That is the understanding of the Maliki scholars, and you know what? It's very reasonable. And the hadith never said like he is not supposed to make up that day, or he should not make up that day, or he does not need to make up that day, right? This is just, I'm giving you just an example. There is more, by the way. There is more evidences or proofs about this issue, but I'm not gonna go into more. But there is more. The scholars of the three schools, they reply to the Malikis and they give them some other opinion or proof. That the Malikis, they have also a reply. The point is, this is the beauty of understanding the differences of the scholars and how they all depend on the Quran and Sunnah, and they try to take the rulings as best as I can based on their capabilities and capacities and qualifications. They try to get us the ruling from the Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So there is a hadith that says, that literally says, if someone eats or drinks forgetfully, there is no, he doesn't have to make it up. There is a literal hadith other than the famous hadith that people know, but then they differed about the authenticity of this hadith, etc., etc. So the point is, if you forgetfully break your fast, you don't have to make up that day, okay? But it's preferable to make it up later. And you can make it up later in the winter days. Where are they short? They are short days, and thank Allah for that. Fast that day as a gratitude to Allah, because He loves you and He gave you some food and drink in Ramadan, in the day of Ramadan, to eat. So that is the three types of non-refraining from nullifiers. So this is the first part of the definition. We're done with the first part of the definition. Fasting is to refrain from nullifiers or anything that breaks your fast from true dawn until sunset, with the intention to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from a person who's permitted to fast. We're done with refraining and non-refraining. Now the second part of the definition is what? To refrain from what? Nullifiers. To refrain from what? From the things that nullify your fast. What are those things? So any questions so far before we move on into the next idea? Any question from our brothers and sisters here on Zoom or on Facebook or on YouTube? Inshallah, I'll be happy to answer. If something related to those 3 points, you can type in the chat. In all of these 3 media, alhamdulillah, it's a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I was reflecting on Sunday about I was going from moving in our online classes from class to class. We have about 20 Arabic and Islamic studies classes and Quranic classes, and going from class to class, mashallah, and observing and seeing how tens of students, mashallah, and teachers continuing this process of learning and acquiring knowledge, and alhamdulillah, wallahi, it's a great blessing from Allah. These media, brothers and sisters, it's a great blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we can communicate and we can continue our journey of learning our religion, especially like these lectures, which are about something that is mandatory on the Muslim to learn in these days, to prepare for the month of Ramadan and to fast the true fast that will be accepted, inshallah. So alhamdulillah, no question, it seems, about these points that we have mentioned so far. Now we move to the nullifiers. In general, the nullifiers in general is anything that enters your body, okay? Anything that enters your body from a normal passageway. Anything that enters your body, okay, from any open passageway in your body, or, okay, and there are some exceptions, we will come to that, but this is the very general definition, okay? Like when we talk now about like kuhl or surma, they say, I think, in Urdu, right? When we talk about that, why it doesn't break the fast? Why it doesn't break the fast? Even if you find the taste of the kuhl in your mouth, or an eye drop, even if you find the taste in your mouth, why that doesn't break the fast, for example? It's based on this general rule, because the eye is not considered like an open passageway, okay? While on the ear, if you have something in the ear, okay, and it reaches the brain, okay, so some scholars, they say it breaks the fast. So it depends on the definition of the fast. So the nose, for example, if you have something into your nose, because this is considered open, then that will break your fast. So the general rule, something you get into your body, you or someone else, okay, in all cases other than forgetfulness. In all cases other than forgetfulness, it will be considered a nullifier. It will be considered something that breaks your fast. Or fulfilling the physical desire, okay? Or fulfilling the physical desire. Someone fulfilled his physical desire, whether with spouse or not, so the exiting of the fluid or doing the actual or fulfilling the actual desire with one's spouse, even without the exiting of the fluid. So this is the general rule of things that nullify the fast. Now, again, as we mentioned, there are things that nullify the fast and require an expiation. And there are things that nullify the fast but do not require an expiation. So we have these two major categories now. Now we're gonna leave alone the things that you do out of forgetfulness. We said you don't have to make up or do any expiation. As for the things that break the fast and require an expiation, is eating or drinking anything intentionally and without excuse. Eating or drinking anything intentionally and without excuse, or letting anything into your body, whether food or drink or medication, letting that into your body, and whether that thing it nourishes or it medicates or only or even pleases the body in certain way, that will nullify the 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 fast. Okay, doing that to one of the body cavities. Okay, so this is one thing. If this thing reaches the intestines, the stomach, or even the brain through the nose, or even through open wounds, that will break the fast. So this is the general rule. No, this is not about the ones that require an expiation. This is the general rule that break about the things that break the fast. But in regard with the things that require an expiation, it's particularly, we have to know this very well, brothers and sisters. It's very important to be aware of the expiation issue, and you can go back to the second lecture and I talked in details about it. It's a very important thing. You have to fast 60 consecutive days if you intentionally break your fast. So you have to be very careful. And that includes, for example, someone having relation with his or her spouse, okay? Even kissing to a certain limit also breaks the fast and requires an expiation, okay? So we cannot speak in more details about this, but inshallah we will upload for you the complete guide about fasting in the Hanafi school, inshallah, in a file that you can find and read all details inshallah in the website. Now the things that break the fast, but it requires only making up without an expiation. So for the things that require an expiation, the scholars mentioned three things. I refer you to the file, inshallah, that we're going to upload. Someone has a relation with his spouse or her spouse, even if there's no exiting of the fluid, and kissing to a certain limit, in which someone will have into his mouth the saliva of the other, okay? And the third thing is eating or drinking something intentionally. So I cannot speak in more details about this. These are the three things in the Hanafi school that require expiation in addition to making up that day. So we have to be very, very careful. Now the things that only requires making up and does not require expiation. Number one, there are many, of course. I'm going to give you just some examples. Just doing something accidentally or by mistake or by coercion of someone else, okay? Eating or drinking or letting in something inside your body cavities. Someone, he broke his fast, okay? Forgetfully. He ate something, okay? He wasn't aware that he was fasting. He forgot at that moment. Then he remembered, oh, I'm fasting. Oh, my fast has broken, has got nullified. So he thought, he didn't learn. He thought that even if he forgetfully breaks his fast will be broken or nullified. So then he goes and he just eats and drinks and he continues. So that's considered an accident, a mistake, right? He doesn't know that eating forgetfully or drinking forgetfully will not break his fast. He didn't know that. So he ate and drank intentionally after thinking or having that mistake. So this person, he only has to make up that day, okay? Because he did that by mistake. Someone swallowed something between his teeth. He's eating and eating, let's say, at the time of Fajr, and we have to be very careful here. Many people, there's a hadith that some people, they brought a hadith and they started propagating among people that you can, if you have something in your mouth and you're eating suhoor, let's say, and it's the adhan started, you can finish up. You can finish up. And that is something that breaks your fast, and you have to be very careful. And here is the seriousness of someone just taking a hadith and without valid or without the required qualifications, this person takes and makes a ruling out of a hadith without being qualified. He or she will make a problem and will make chaos and will bring strange rulings that are not approved by the scholars. And this is why I urge myself and my brothers and sisters to be aware that once the time for the true dawn starts, you have to remove anything in your mouth. And you're supposed to prepare yourself before that moment and not leave it like for the moment. You have to prepare before that and clean your mouth, etc., and brush and be ready. Not keep eating to the last moment, then you don't know how to do with the food in your mouth. And that hadith that those people propagated and misunderstood, it has a context. And there was, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, there were two adhans. There were two adhans. One adhan will be by Sayyidina Bilal, and the other adhan will be by Sayyidina Ibn Maktoum. And the first adhan, that was like, they call it imsak. In Syria, we have two adhans for Fajr. I don't know about the other countries, honestly. So in Syria, in Ramadan, in Fajr time, we have two adhans. The first one is called imsak. Imsak means refraining. And the second adhan is the adhan of Fajr. So the first adhan is a preparation. Like, now get ready, stop, prepare yourself, clean, finish up. Now it's about like 5 or 10 minutes before Fajr, or sometimes less. So that adhan is called imsak. It's not the Fajr time. But here, where we are in the States, we don't have imsak and we only have Fajr. So once Fajr starts and the adhan says Allahu Akbar, khalas. You cannot keep anything in your mouth or eat anything in your mouth afterwards. So you have to be very careful, brothers and sisters. If someone, let's say, he thought it is Fajr time, he thought it's not Fajr time yet. So by accident, by mistake, he still had some food after Fajr entered. He has to make up, and no expiation required if he did that by mistake. Now, someone, he had some leftover in his mouth, okay, which is like the size of a chickpea or bigger. The size of a chickpea or bigger, then he has also to make up that fast. Okay. Also, even something like very small, you have to be careful. Like you have a sesame in your mouth. Okay, we have in our Syrian tradition, we eat, we call it zayt and za'tar. Zayt and za'tar is oil, olive oil, and thyme. Thyme is za'tar, which is, or sa'tar, which is like, you know, the oregano. It's a type of of something similar. Okay, they put it from those plants and they dry it up and they smash it and they put sesame. Okay, they put sesame, the sesame seeds with it. So this is a very, very, very common breakfast dish, if you like, in Syria and Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine, in the Levant or in Sham in general. So we take a piece of pita bread and, mashallah, you dip on the olive oil, which is blessed from a blessed tree, right? As mentioned in the Quran, you dip in the olive oil, then you dip it on the thyme or za'atar, and you eat with some like black tea. I hope now no one is like he just wants to go and try it now. You can do that right after, inshallah. So let's say you had zayt and za'atar, and by the way, this is very beneficial for the kids. Very beneficial. Olive oil and sesame, and this is a very good dish, especially the olive oil, as mentioned in the traditions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he urged us to use it and drink it, and it's very, very beneficial. Someone, let's say in suhoor, he had zayt and za'atar, okay, and he had some sesames left in his mouth. Now, if you have the sesame, okay, it's very small, like seed, okay, like the black seed. It's almost the same size but different color. If he chewed that, let's say sesame, okay, but he did not find like any taste in his mouth for that, that will not break the fast. But if he swallowed, if he swallowed his saliva, he chewed that sesame and he swallowed his saliva and he felt the taste, his fast is broken. So we have to be careful. We have to be aware. Okay. Another example of the things that nullify the fast without needing an expiation, but it requires only the making of that day, is swallowing a pebble or any item, anything, even as small as a pebble, that usually people don't eat or consume. If it enters your body, you have to make up that day. Also, if like you have some blood in your gums, and that blood, it's preponderates the saliva, like it's more than the saliva, and you swallow that, then that will also break the fast. Toothpaste and mouthwash. Toothpaste and mouthwash. If you swallow some toothpaste or you swallow some mouthwash, that will also nullify and break your fast. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more, inshallah, in the second category about the things that do not break the fast. We're going to have some detail about that. But swallowing any amount of toothpaste intentionally, okay, or some of the mouthwash, that will break your fast. So you have to be careful. Now someone might say, what about like I have work and I need to use the toothpaste? We're not saying you don't use the toothpaste. We're going to explain the details. But for now, you need to understand that swallowing some toothpaste or mouthwash, it will break your fast, okay, because you're letting it inside your body. Now, someone, he deliberately vomited, okay, deliberately vomited. He put his finger or with something, he deliberately vomited, okay, this breaks his fast, whether he swallows anything or not. As long as he deliberately vomits a mouthful, okay, his fast is broken, whether he swallows anything or not. Okay, someone, as you mentioned about food in the beginning, someone, he unintentionally vomited, okay, so he thought that his fast is broken. He thought that his fast got nullified, okay, so he intentionally and deliberately vomited after that. So that will break his fast, but no expiation. Okay, because by mistake he thought that if someone intentionally vomits, then he has to then his fast is nullified. Now, smoke smoke that enters the throat by one's doing, by yourself, that will break your fast, with the condition that one's body doesn't benefit from it. For example, incense, okay, incense and steam, okay. If you are in a certain place and you just smelled some fragrance, some bakhur they call it, we call it some incense, okay, you smelled and you had that smell, that's okay. But if you come close, like to the source of the incense, and you came close and started letting the steam or the smoke into your nose, that breaks the fast. So we have to be careful. But if some, like one of our wives or mothers, she's cooking and there's a lot of steam out there in the kitchen, and she's not doing it by herself and not exposing herself to that's normal. So that's something unavoidable. Okay. Or you are in a certain place where, may Allah protect us, like there's a lot of smoke or people smoking, and you cannot avoid it. So that will not break your fast. And of course, you're not supposed to be in such places. Now, another thing that breaks the fast is like kissing or touching, kissing your spouse, okay, to the to the extent that it will make you release the fluid, or touching, okay. And here a very, very important point for our young men and women, very important point for our young men and women, and for brothers and sisters in general, that some people, they tackle and they play or they touch their own bodies or their own private parts, and that is very serious. Also, if you reach a level, you release, or you reach a level where the fluid exits, then also you have broken your fast and it got nullified, and that is a sin that you have to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from. So you have to be very careful. But remember, we said kissing to the extent where someone, one of them swallows the saliva of the other, then that will require an expiation. Again, be careful, brothers and sisters, in Ramadan, during the day of Ramadan, be careful. Don't cross the line. Don't even approach. Okay, as our beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, that if someone draws close to the haram, he's about to fall into it. Okay, وَمَنْ حَامَ حَوْلَ الْحِمَى أَوْشَكَ أَنْ يَقَعَ فِيهِ. Okay, just like if the shepherd takes his sheep to a certain place where around a certain area, once they come close, they will go in. So don't even come close. Don't put yourself in risk. Don't put yourself in risk. Okay, we know ourselves, we are weak creatures. So try to avoid any physical intimate contact with your spouse in Ramadan. Okay. Now we have also the suppositories, the rectal suppositories, or anything that is dry that goes into the body and disappears inside the body, and it will also break the fast. Now someone might say, well, I am sick, I have to take the medicine. Okay, we will talk about this later, about those who are executed, but we will mention this point here since it's very important. Someone is sick in Ramadan, in the day of Ramadan, okay? So we say you have to ask a trustworthy Muslim physician or expert. If they tell you that breaking that fasting will harm you, will cause your disease to get worse, or will cause your disease to be delayed, it causes the recovery to be delayed. If a trustworthy person tells you this, okay, then you're excused. Okay, you're excused if you have like to take, let's say, suppositories or some medicine, any type of medicine, and you have to take it during the day. There's no other way. And if you don't, that will worsen your disease or that will delay the recovery. Islam told you, you're excused. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنكُم مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Holy Quran, right? So you just make up this day after Ramadan. If someone is sick with a disease that is a lasting disease, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give shifa to our brothers and sisters and parents and fathers and mothers and loved ones who are sick. May Allah give them speedy shifa and recovery. Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Those types of people cannot fast, neither now, neither later. They have certain diabetes or certain diseases. Of course, who's going to decide? A trustworthy expert or physician. If they tell you, then you're excused. If you cannot make up and you always have to break the fast, then you have to pay and feed for every day. You feed people 2 meals, 2 full meals for every day. You break the fast with that excuse. Okay. Also, having or letting something that is wet or that is oiled into an open cavity, and also our sisters also, they have to be careful also letting something into the body cavities, like a wet tissue or wet piece of cotton or something. If it disappears, or even if it doesn't completely disappear inside the body, that will break the fast. So we have to be very careful, and there are some details that I will refer you, inshallah, to in the website. We will upload this file for you, inshallah, that has much more details. If someone is making wudu, okay, for his nose or in the ghusl, and he had some water went in, it reached the throat or reached the brain, okay, by mistake, that also breaks the fast. Medicine, inhaling medicine to the nostrils, to your nose, that breaks the fast. Smoke, as we mentioned, smoke, we talked about it, right? Okay. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Finally, we said applying medicine to an open abdominal or head wound, and it reaches the stomach or the brain, that will also break the fast. And we talked about the rules for those who are sick and those who are executed. Any question about these things, brothers and sisters? These are the things that break your fast, and you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful, and these things require making up that day. You have to make up that day, and we mentioned 3 things that require, in addition to making up that day, it requires an expiation. And always remember, that is a very serious thing. Expiation is fasting 60 consecutive days, and it's not something easy, and they have to be consecutive. So please be careful and learn and have knowledge and be aware. Do we have any question here on YouTube or Facebook or Zoom at this point? Okay. So if we don't have questions, then we can move on to the things that do not break the fast. The things that do not break the fast. We have things that do not break the fast. Some people might think it breaks the fast. So let's go over them very quickly, some of them, or the main things. Okay. Eating or drinking something forgetfully, we mentioned that already. Tasting the leftover traces of medicine in the mouth or throat. You had medicine, like, let's say, right before Fajr, and still there was some taste in your mouth or in your throat. So that will not, inshallah, break the fast. That will not, inshallah, break the fast. Also, dust or smoke okay, dust or smoke, without you're doing, like unintentionally. There's dust, you're walking somewhere and there's like some wind and dust came into your mouth. That's an accident, but that doesn't break the fast, okay? As we mentioned again about smoke and incense and other, if you come close to the source like of the incense and you open your mouth like and you let it in, that will break your fast and you have to make up that day, okay? Swallowing the wetness that remains after washing one's mouth for wudu or ghusl, okay? If someone, you washed your mouth in wudu or you had a bath or a shower and there was some normal witness, the normal witness that is in your mouth, okay, you just swallowed, that's normal, that is normal, that doesn't break the fast. But here we have to be very careful, and there's a joke that people mention in Syria. One of them, he says, لولا الوضوء لمتنا من العطش في رمضان. He says if it was not for fasting, sorry, if it was not for wudu, we would have died out of thirst in Ramadan. So it means whenever he makes wudu, he gets some water intentionally in. So that will break the fast, and that will require an expiation. If you knowingly doing it, you know Allah knows you, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what you're doing. You cannot cheat on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So this person, he said, if it was not for wudu, we would have died out of thirst. So whenever he makes wudu, he gets some water intentionally. Like the normal witness, okay, the normal witness that you have in your mouth after wudu or ghusl, that's excused. You're not required like to get a napkin or to get the towel and dry your mouth. No, that is excessiveness. That is not required at all. And if someone does that, he is doing it out of ignorance, okay? And that is not part of the etiquettes of fast or the rules of fast. Swallowing 1 or 2 drops of sweat or tears that enter the mouth and mixes with one's saliva, on the condition that one cannot taste its saltiness. So you have someone is sweating, you know, you're working, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help the brothers and sisters who have like difficult physical work during the month of Ramadan. And those types of people also, they have their own ruling. If someone must work for his family in the month of Ramadan, and the type of work like construction or physical work like in bakery, some physical works that are really hard, and he really cannot break, cannot keep the fast, they are also excused and they have their own rulings. And everyone, brothers and sisters, we're mentioning general rules. If you have a certain case, sometimes the scholars they find you the solution that you need. So you have to ask a trustworthy student of knowledge or scholar about your specific case, inshallah. So sweat or tears, if you feel the saltiness in your mouth, that will break the fast, okay? If you feel the saltiness, sometimes someone is crying and you know some drops goes inside the mouth, or sweating, you know, and this happens a lot if someone is working hard, and okay, so that will break the fast if you taste the saltiness. Otherwise, it doesn't break the fast. Now, swallowing your own saliva, I'm talking now, okay, and there's some saliva in my mouth, I just, okay, swallow. That is normal. That is normal. You're not required, and this is very important, brothers and sisters. You're not required to keep spitting in Ramadan, right? That is not right, and that is part of like lack of knowledge for people who do that. They think they have to keep spitting the saliva out of their mouth. That is not good. That's not part of fasting, not part of the rules of fasting, and you're making it difficult for yourself because you did not learn. Fasting is not that difficult, especially if you get used to that. And by the way, subhanAllah, in the first couple of hours, first couple of days of Ramadan, your body automatically will get used to fasting, and you're not really doing a big effort. So If someone is fasting and you swallow the moisture that remains in your mouth after wudu or after, that is normal. Even if the saliva like gathers in your mouth, like you're sitting or talking, like after a while, some saliva gathers in your mouth. You don't have to spit it. It's completely okay to swallow. Okay, so don't make things difficult upon yourself. And there's no need to keep spitting. Okay, and because also a lot of spitting will cause a dryness in your mouth and will make you thirsty, and you put yourself in unnecessary difficulty or hardship. The religion is easy. إِنَّ هَذَا الدِّينَ يُسْرٌ, as our beloved said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Surely this religion is that of ease. So don't make it difficult for yourself. But when we don't learn, we make it difficult upon ourselves. Swallowing one's phlegm also. The phlegm, if you're clearing clearing your throat and you have some phlegm also, that does not break the fast. Using a siwak or toothbrush. Using siwak, some people think it has to be miswak. No, both are okay. Siwak or miswak. And siwak is more used in the traditions, for example, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So siwak or toothbrush, if you use it, that's fine. It doesn't break the fast. Now here we're talking about the toothbrush and the mouth, the toothpaste. The toothpaste, it's better to avoid it. Why? Because if you swallow some of the toothpaste or the mouthwash, that will break your fast. So it's better to avoid it in order not to risk your fast. But if someone, let's say, he has like some smell that comes from his stomach or his teeth, and he has work and he has to interact with people, and he needs to use toothpaste or use a mouthwash. We say you can do that, but you have to be very careful. Use very little amount, okay? Very little amount, and don't raise your head, and don't do a movement that will risk letting some of the mouthwash or the toothpaste get inside your throat and your body. Okay, so you can bend, you can use a small amount. If someone using the siwak, and of course using the siwak is sunnah throughout Ramadan, throughout the day of Ramadan in the Hanafi school. Again, all of these rules we're talking about the Hanafi school, brothers and sisters, so that you don't get confused. And that is what supposed for the Muslim to do. You're supposed to learn one school, learn the basic ibadat, and follow that and stick to that, so that you don't confuse yourself. Using the siwak during the day of Ramadan is okay, is fine. But if you have like some of those threads or parts or pieces of the siwak in your mouth, and you felt it, and you knew, and you intentionally swallow that, that will break your fast, and you have to make up that day. Okay, so you have to be careful. But again, if you have doubt, you just ignore doubts. You don't deal with doubt. Once you have doubt, ignore the doubt, and you always based on certainty. Okay, wetting your lips with your saliva. Like I'm talking now, I get dry a lot. My lips get dried a lot, so I keep trying to making my lips wet. Excuse me for keeping this and keep drinking. Bismillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us during this month and enable us to fast. If you do that, making your lips wet and moistening them, that's fine. That does not break your fast. Blood that comes from the gums, and it doesn't preponderate the saliva. It's not more than the saliva. Then it does not break the fast. With the condition that you don't taste it again. There's a taste from that blood, then your fast is broken or nullified. Okay, we have some little more, but I see our time is up, so we will stop here. And there are very important points that some people are unaware of. If someone wakes up, let's finish just this one because it's common. It could happen to a lot of young men and women. If someone wakes up in the morning and he finds his clothes wet, okay, so he had a wet dream, he or she had a wet dream, that does not have relation to fast, okay? That does not have relation to fast. So you continue your fast even if you woke up after Fajr, even if you slept like during the day of Ramadan at Dhuhr time, let's say. You slept during the day of Ramadan at Dhuhr time, and you woke up, you found you had a wet dream, or you found yourself your clothes wet. That doesn't have relation to the fast, doesn't break the fast because you did not do it intentionally. So that does not have relation to the fast. Even if you, I'll give you, brothers and sisters, and we have very few seconds left. This religion is a great religion, and we need to learn it. There is no shamefulness in asking about the religious matters, even private issues. You have to learn and you have to ask. Okay. Sometimes, let's say, someone woke up in Ramadan. He woke up, let's say, like 5 minutes before Fajr. Okay, this happens to us, right? We are all humans, and these are normal things. He woke up let's say 5 minutes before Fajr, and he needed a ghusl. He had to take a ritual bath. Okay, and he needs to have some suhoor, some food before Fajr start. He doesn't have to he doesn't have to make ghusl or to take the bath before Fajr. He doesn't have to, okay? Because Fajr has not started and he has long time to pray Fajr. So he can go and eat some food and have some suhoor and make some istighfar. Not because you made a sin, you did not make any sin, okay? You did not make any sin. Because suhoor time is a great time for istighfar. So I meant because you cannot pray in that situation. So just make some istighfar, some dhikr, and have your suhoor, and then you take a shower or take a bath and you pray sunnah and you pray fajr, etc. I hope this is clear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us what benefits us, increase us in knowledge, in good morals, and in good deeds. There are more things we have to talk about, inshallah. There are things that reduce the reward of your fast but doesn't break the fast. These things do not reduce the reward of your fast and do not break your fast. We already mentioned most of them. So there are a lot of more rules. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, we'll meet with you again Friday after Fajr at 6:15 coming Friday. Inshallah, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us what benefit us and increase us in knowledge, in good morals, and in good deeds. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين. Any question on anything we have mentioned today in today's lecture from our brothers on Facebook, our brothers and sisters on YouTube and on Zoom? I'll be happy, inshallah, to answer any question. If anyone has any question, you can type on the chat in any of these three media. And inshallah, the main reference I'm using for the legal rulings in these lectures is the complete guide for fasting in the Hanafi school, which is published by seekersguidance.com. And for the brothers and sisters in Hanafi and Shafi'i school and all schools, this is a very reliable, trustworthy website. One of the very few, unfortunately, it's one of the very few. Okay, I'm saying unfortunately because really the reliable websites are very few. So this is one of those really reliable websites, that in your religion, in all of the Islamic affairs, in all of the Islamic matters, this is a very reliable source. It's a very rich source, very great source. So you can download it. It's available, a complete guide for fasting. And if you have questions, I'll always, inshallah, be happy to help. Seekersguidance.com. Okay, it seems no questions. Alhamdulillah, things were clear. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from you. Keep us in your dua and prepare yourself for Ramadan. Jazakum Allahu khairan. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. صل اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين والحمد لله رب العالمين.